Welcome to Empowering Workers, Federal Employees' Disability and Employment Rights and Social Security Disability for All.
Hello and welcome to Empowering Workers, Federal Employees' Disability and Employment Rights and Social Security Disability for All with Eric Pines. Eric is a nationally recognized federal employment lawyer, mediator, and attorney business coach. He represents federal employees and acts as an in-house counsel for thousands of employees through his work as a federal employee labor union representative. So Eric, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, John. It's great to be back.
Yeah, it's great to have you. And I'm your host, John Clements. For everyone listening, today's episode is Staying Afloat, Smart Financial Moves to Make While Your OPM Disability Retirement Claim is Pending. So Eric, let's dig into it. When someone applies for disability benefits, what are the most immediate financial challenges they typically face while they're waiting on a decision?
So this question is probably the most asked question I have when someone reaches out to me about applying for OPM disability or federal disability retirement. The question is, disability retirement can take up to a year to get some type of result. There's no guarantee you'll get it. Of course, if you work with a firm, you have a much higher chance. But the question is, what do you do during that 1 year interim period? How do you support yourself? Because sometimes you might be working for the government. Sometimes you might be in a non-pay status. Sometimes you might be separated for medical reasons for the government. So to answer your question specifically, what are the most immediate financial challenges? Well, the most immediate financial challenge is probably making sure you have health insurance, because if you're disabled, you're going to want to make sure that you have health insurance, number one. And number two, of course, paying your bills, getting your paycheck. These are some immediate financial challenges if you're on some type of unpaid leave or if you're separated from the agency. So that's really what I think people are most worried about during that interim period. How do I support myself while I wait for a result from OPM on my disability application?
Yeah, I can imagine that could be a very stressful endeavor to be waiting for that long. So what are some proactive steps that you could take to manage your finances while you're waiting for this review to happen?
Well, one thing we should clarify, though, is that assuming you aren't in a pay status, which is obviously what the person who is going to be worried in this situation, one of the things you can do is you can, first of all, use FMLA leave to protect yourself, and that allows you to stay in your job for at least 12 weeks. And as long as you have not been in non-pay status for 6 months, then your insurance will continue to be paid. So that's obviously a huge benefit. Okay, let's say you pass that period and you are no longer employed for the federal government. At that point, you get 1 month of what we call COBRA, a type of COBRA. And that first month, believe it or not, is free. You don't even have to pay. You're insured for 1 month. Then from that point onward, you will not be insured. However, here's the key. If you ultimately get disability retirement, they will and just to clarify, by the way, it's called temporary coverage, TCC, that 1 month free. But let's say you get disability retirement, you will retroactively be insured to that last day you were in a pay status. And while that's kind of scary because you don't know if you're going to get disability retirement, if you ultimately do get disability retirement, they, like I said, you'll be retroactively insured. So they will actually pay your health bills in arrears as if you were insured the entire time. So that's one way to deal with health benefit issues if you're in a non-pay status. Now, the next question is, what do you do when you're not getting paid? Because the bills obviously don't stop coming in just because you're sick. So the answer to that is, first of all, just finishing up what we were saying before, is if you get disability, you'll get a retroactive check for 60% of your pay, moving you all the way back to the last day you're in a pay status. But again, that could take a year to come, even more potentially, and there's no guarantee it will come. So what do you do? So what do I tell potential clients or clients? A lot of times what I tell them is if you have a thrift savings plan, which is like the federal government's 401k, go ahead and take a loan out of that. Now be careful though, because sometimes when you're separated, you're forced to pay it back. But there are ways to borrow money from that. Talk to a financial planner or give us a call. We can talk to you about it on your specific situation. And so a lot of times you can borrow taking a hardship withdrawal. So you don't even have to pay the 10% because you have a medical need for that. So there's that idea of taking from that sort of retirement plan, or maybe you have a previous 401k, or maybe you can take out a home loan or equity line of credit or something like that. These are all different ideas, with the thought being once you get disability, you can pay these things back. You can pay yourself back and put yourself back in the position you would have been had you not had you been paid for that time period or been on insurance. So the time period from when you were separated or from when you weren't in a pay status.
I see. And so, do you feel like a lot of what you do as an attorney in this situation is to just help educate your clients about what they have available to them and how to go about doing it?
I for sure, yes, you couldn't have said it better. A lot of times, what we're doing is we're there for the client, because the difference between us and the client is that we're dealing with this on a daily basis. We have, the client is usually in a situation almost 100% of the time. They've never applied for disability before, or they've never had to deal with that interim stage when they're waiting for disability. So when that happens, basically we're there, and what makes us unique is we can even help represent them in the reasonable accommodation process if they're not sure if they want disability. But let's say that they do want disability, then yes, we can give them individual advice. I myself happen to be a federal financial planner, have certifications in that. So I can give them basic advice to help them through this time period, and to refer them to the correct rules and regulations.
Yeah, so that actually brings up another question, because you mentioned you have some financial planning background and certificates, and you've also mentioned like there are certain times where you may want to actually go talk with maybe an accountant or a financial planner more so than a lawyer. So how does that work? Like, do you partner with people to send people referrals, or is it just, hey, go talk to your planner?
I sure do. Actually, since I worked in the field for a while, I took a little detour in my life. I love financial planning. It's just fun for me. I know that sounds kind of strange, but so I took a little detour, and I was actually doing retirement seminars for federal employees before. And I have a number of friends in the field that I trust, that I feel care about clients first and not about the bottom line. Because unfortunately, in the financial field, there's a lot of people who make money just on commissions, and they're not looking out for the best interest necessarily of the client. So I have relationships with people who I trust, who I know will take good care of the clients that work with us. So the answer to that is yes. I have relationships with people, and I'm happy to hook people up and give them an unbiased assessment of who that they can work with.
Yeah, that's actually great. I love that you've got that professional network, because that's just like an added benefit to your clients, really.
Yeah.
Um, I want to mention also another question, and this time it revolves around unemployment. So let's say that I'm applying for unemployment or workers' comp or some other aid. Does that impact a pending disability claim, whether positively or negatively?
So to be a lawyer for a second, every state is different when it comes to unemployment. I'm a federal employee attorney. I represent any federal employee around the world, around the country. When it comes to unemployment, if you have a specific legal question, you would want an attorney who's licensed in the state that you're applying for unemployment in. With that caveat, which us lawyers love, we love caveats. With that caveats, I would say no, it really does not affect you in general, because clearly, if you are leaving the federal government or leaving your job because you have a medical condition, it's not your fault. And you generally, a person in that situation is going to qualify for unemployment. It's the people who quit their jobs willfully, or who are being fired for cause, who really have to generally worry about not getting unemployment benefits. And as it relates to workers' compensation, you were asking, that's a completely different situation. The federal government has its own workers' compensation program. That's another area we can assist you with. It's called FECA, which stands for the Federal Employee Compensation Act, or OWCP, Office of Workers' Compensation. And you cannot recover both workers' comp and disability retirement at the same time. You have to pick one, but you can actually pick which one you want. You can switch back and forth. So let's say you're applying for workers' comp, or you're on workers' comp, and you're afraid you're going to get kicked off of workers' comp. In that situation, then it very well could be that you're going to want to apply for disability, and you only get 1 year to apply for disability after you've been separated from your job. So you may want to just apply to keep it in your back pocket. And then if you ever get kicked off of workers' comp, because workers' comp does try to kick people off because it's expensive for them, it actually pays better than disability retirement. It pays 75% of your salary tax-free if you're married or have children under, I think, 18 or 21. And it pays 66% if you're single, tax-free. So that's going to pay better than disability retirement. So you're going to want to potentially stay on workers' comp, even though you're not going to get paid into your retirement plan generally. But if they ever do kick you off, or if you decide you want to be paying into your retirement plan, you can fill out a form and switch to disability retirement. So if you're on workers' comp, you may want to reach out to a disability retirement attorney and see if you can get that to protect you in case you're ever separated or you have been separated, and if you're in within 1 year of employment.
Okay, man, that is a lot more detail than I thought it was going to be, which is good because, I don't know, you fill out a form and that's all I know, right? So it's great to get that information out to where people can understand it. And just to clarify, and I apologize if this is a dumb question, but I find dumb questions are how I learn the best. It sounded to me like you said that unemployment is generally a state benefit, and then maybe workers' comp or disability might be more of a federal issue. Is that what I heard?
That is not a dumb question at all. That is a great question. And the answer is yes. Each state has its own unemployment office, and you are subject to the state laws when it comes to unemployment. And the federal government, we're talking about federal employees here in this conversation, if you work for the federal government, they have their own program that's federal wide that covers you for federal workers' comp and has nothing to do with unemployment whatsoever. They're completely separate programs.
Good to know, because again, as just a citizen, I think, oh, well, the government's just the government, but it's really not quite that simple.
No, not especially today, what's going on in politics and everything.
Exactly. So I do want to ask a bit of a different question. We've been talking about all these programs and rules and things, and I know that with any kind of program, especially government program, there's documentation involved. So what kind of financial documentation or planning should clients start organizing early in their disability claim process?
Well, you're going to want to gather together your retirement documents. A lot of these are in your official personnel file. You want to make sure that you select, if you're married or have children under age, you want to make sure that you select your survivor benefits. One thing I didn't mention earlier, which is a great time to talk about it now, is as a federal employee, as long as you've worked for a year and a half, or I think it's as far as applying for disability retirement, or 5 years to be vested in your pension, you're going to want to make sure that when you separate from the agency, you keep the money that you pay into your FERS retirement, which is basically, in the federal government, they call it the three-legged stool. There are 3 types of retirement that you get to help you. One is Social Security, which is like most Americans you get when you reach Social Security age, or there's some type of supplement if you haven't reached it, but if you've reached regular retirement age for federal employees, but not for Social Security. That I don't know when this is going to be released, but I know that right now this is something that Congress is trying to maybe eliminate. So I would not take anything I say in this if you're watching this without doing some research. But that is one thing. Then you've got the thrift savings plan, which we talked about before, which is the federal government's version of a 401k. That's going to pay 1/3 of your retirement. And then finally, the FERS pension, which stands for Federal Employee Retirement System. And that is the actual pension, which used to be what you got completely. You basically got around 2/3 of your salary. In the old days, now it's about 1/3 of your salary on average, depending on how many years of service that you have. So that's the third leg of the stool. So to answer your question, you want to make sure that you know where you stand with your TSP, thrift savings plan. You want to know where you stand, that you're paying into FERS, and you don't pull that money out, because that will kill your pension and your retirement if you take it out. And you want to make sure where you stand as far as Social Security. And then also you're going to want to talk to a financial planner about your own personal finances, other money you have from other jobs, other Social Security quarters that you paid in, and so forth.
Perfect. Yeah, just about that well-rounded, knowledge of where you stand in all those different areas. I think that's great advice. And then finally, Eric, when you're acting as an attorney to help people with this, yes, there's documentation, yes, there's education, but at the end of the day, we're people, and we have emotions and we have stress. How do you come alongside your clients to support them, not just with like filing the motions, but with just being there for them as people?
So the way our firm works, we assign one person the whole time. You're not going from person to person, and they're basically, part assistance with your application, part therapist, because you're going through a really hard time. Everyone here is very caring, sensitive, and is dealing on a daily basis with disabled employees, people who are struggling. So one of the things we focus on here is being empathetic and caring and treating people the way we want to be treated, and really trying to take care of them as far as recognizing that they're paying us because they're disabled, and who wants to be dealing with their agency and legal processes by themselves. So we're here to hold their hand. So that's what we do as a firm, as far as having our representatives assist. I personally also am always here to answer questions, and I can jump in and assist. And I also assist with reasonable accommodation and things like that, depending on what exactly the person needs. Sometimes we represent people in their reasonable accommodation claim, and we help them. We represent them as they separate from the agency, and then separately we represent them on disability. And we always represent them as well on Social Security disability if they want assistance in that area as a completely separate thing. It's also something that doesn't even cost them money up front. That's something that can be taken as a percentage of their recovery at the end. So we're here basically to help them through the full gamut of everything. And I think actually, I was playing earlier today with ChatGPT just for fun, and it was asking me, what sets your firm apart? So I was typing in a few things, and it spit back out exactly what I was thinking. This idea that we're the soup to nuts firm. Most firms either are going to help you with disability, or help you with workers' comp, or help you with Social Security disability or OPM disability, but very few firms are going to cover the entire gamut and be able to give you the big picture. And I think that's, one of the nice things. In addition to being human and empathetic, we're also very, very knowledgeable about the entire process, and there's no blind spots when you're dealing with our firm. So, if somebody is interested in having that type of service, you're going to get what you pay for, and we're going to be here to assist you and help you through the entire process.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm so happy you mentioned empathy, because I think there's a shortage of that in our society. So to hear you focus on that, I think is great. Eric, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for coming on the show today.
It's my pleasure as well. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day.
Yep. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Empowering Workers, Federal Employees, Disability and Employment Rights, and Social Security Disability for All with Eric L. Pines. To connect with Eric, head over to pinesfederal.com. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. And until next time, have a great day.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.